Welcome to another installment of exploring how to go from speech to text to spreadsheet. Today's demonstration is going to do all of that and hopefully illustrate how to do it using the app that is appearing right in front of you right now, and that is Dragon's app, Dragon Anywhere. I went ahead and installed this on both my iPad, which you're seeing here, and also on my iPhone. Have tried it on both, and I have to say that there are a lot of pluses. I would say it is at least as strong as Apple's built-in dictation service, and I would say even stronger in very specific areas. But there are still bumps in the road in terms of how it interprets and translates what I say. But because it has built-in navigation features that you can activate via voice, there's ways to navigate around a document so that you can actually make corrections via dictation. And that is something that is completely unique to this app and not available currently in the iOS dictation option on the iPhone and iPad. So when you install the app, and you do need to create an account with Dragon in order to really get the full function of the app. They do offer a subscription service. I think there's ways to buy it by the year and also by the month. I know it is technically a little more expensive than a typical app, and you could say a lot more expensive, but I think of it not so much as an app as a thing that provides a very specific task. I think of it more like an administrative assistant. And in that way, I look at what they're charging in a slightly different context, in that this is something that can offload a lot of creation of documents, moving information from one thing to the other. And in that sense, if you think of it more as an assistant, it makes that price point maybe a little bit more palatable, but again, that's to everyone's discretion to reach that decision of whether it's too much or makes sense. But it is a powerful app. After you install it and get running, you can see that there's a series of links, kind of shortcuts, and I'm going to go through them very quickly here. Dictation, that gets you to an open file where you can begin dictating immediately. Documents is where you can see all of the documents. At this point, I don't have any currently saved. They are saved locally to the device. And if you want something more direct to a cloud service, you can link this app and this service to Evernote and also to Dropbox. I'm just beginning to test the Dropbox function, and I'm finding it does work. What I do find is the synchronization between my device and Dropbox, and how the Dragon application updates to show what's on Dropbox. Sometimes there's a good 5-10 minute delay, and you have this feeling of, wait, where is my document? Where did it go? And then boop, it appears. There may be something I'm doing wrong, and that's why I don't want to go too deeply into that, because I want to explore that and perhaps talk about that if it's useful in a future tutorial. There's a wonderful reference here built into the app called What Can I Say? And you can see there's a whole list of possible helpful sources to figure out how I can say something in order for it to do a very specific task. I'm not going to go through every one, because it is quite amazing how many things you can dictate in order to get this app to complete whatever phrase or move around a document that you want to do. And to me, that's one of the significant things that separates Dragon Anywhere from the iOS option, is that you can actually use dictation to navigate around the document, and I hope to show that momentarily. Auto text is a feature that they have for creating a form by which you can then dictate through that form, through the fields of the form, using this app. I'm not sure how useful that is even for my own purposes, but if it's something that you might see a use case for, you certainly want to check that out. Words is a shortcut to being able to add words that it trips up on, or it's having a hard time spelling, or consistently getting wrong. You can spell it phonetically, So it knows that when you say a certain phrase or a certain word, you mean it to say what is written here in this field. It's nice that it has its own dictionary. It is your dictionary, so it is all unique and customizable to words and phrases that might be specific to your business, to what you're writing about, etc., etc. So, yes, there's an upfront step if it's consistently tripping up on a word, but once you nail that down, it's done. It will, and I've tried it initially with a couple different words, and it was successful. Once I figured out how to get it to know when I say X, I mean Y, it's solid. So yes, a bit of an investment up front, but I think long term, if you have a lot of unique words and phrases that would trip up most any dictation app, the fact that you can build your own custom dictionary, I think is pretty powerful in the long term. And then there are settings, and I'm just going to point out real quickly, I'm going to jump to a very specific one, and that is this import export settings. If you know where you're going to be sending a document after you create it, you want to take a look at the options that they have. By default, it sets this to a docx, or basically a Word document. For my uses, I know I want to send this document that I'm working on out to a spreadsheet, and most spreadsheet apps do not know what to do with a Word document. They really want to deal with just straight text. So I have currently selected text for Mac OS X because I'm predominantly a Mac user. I have not tried the text Windows option. If you're a Windows user, that might be a better selection if you know you're going to be sending it out ultimately to a Windows-specific device. But for now, I'm just going to leave this set to text Mac OS X. I'm going to select back, and then I'm going to activate the sidebar, and I'm going to begin dictating a document. And I'm using a spreadsheet that was provided with both headings and some content, so that there's hopefully an apples to apples, so to speak, use case here in what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and begin by tapping the microphone here in the lower corner. When it's red, it's not recording. When it's green, it is recording. Go to title. Major asset inventory schedule. Stop recording. So there you just saw two very unique commands that again separate this app from the iOS app. It was set to begin typing in the begin dictating area of this document. When I selected the microphone and turned it on, I said, go to title. It knows that there is a title field and a dictation field, and you can use that directional command go to and then title to move the cursor out of whatever field it's in and to go to whatever field you're directing it to. And then the second verbal command that you heard was stop recording. I can force the recording to stop by using the simple command stop recording. And that is useful if you know you're in a busy area, or you know you're about to get interrupted and you're in the midst of dictating something, to just quickly get into the habit of just saying stop recording. And then it's not going to pick up any of the ambient conversations or the conversation that you suddenly launch into after you had just completed dictating something, and then you have to go back and edit that out. So very useful. I'm going to proceed by creating the headings first in a comma delimited line, and then depending on what the results are of that, I may then begin dictating the actual cells of the spreadsheet. So here we go. Go to dictation. Location, comma, asset description, comma, category, comma, asset condition, comma, quantity, comma, all caps RCN, new line. Stop recording. Okay, what I just did there, and I am stopping because I want to point out the other thing that I just implemented, and that is forcing all caps. And the other thing I'll say tangentially about the all caps and this app in general is speak as comfortably and as fluently as you normally do. It's bizarre, but I have more occasions since I've installed this that when I speak in a very deliberate and slow way, it tends to confuse the app, especially when you choose a command like all caps. I have done a few of these files in preparation for this tutorial, and when I would say all caps RCN, I would get wild results. But if I just say all caps RCN, you saw how quickly it interpreted, and that's exactly what I want in this column, is to have those letters, capital R, capital C, capital N. So far so good, and again showing how speaking just with a regular voice is preferred, and then earlier how you can navigate around. But let's continue by creating some data in the cells of our spreadsheet. I'm going to tap the record button and begin speaking the various bits of information that I want to hopefully populate the cells of our spreadsheet. Main office, comma. Physician chair 5 wheels. Numeral 2. Scratch that. Comma, numeral 2. Comma. 0 plus sign, comma. Numeral 2. Comma. $400. New line. Main office. Wall pocket, comma. Scratch that. Scratch that. Comma. Wall pocket, comma. Numeral 3, comma. 0 plus sign, comma. Numeral 2, comma. $75. New line. Waiting room, comma. Side chair with no arms, comma. Numeral 2, comma. 0 plus sign, comma. Numeral 3, comma. $150. New line. Office area, comma. Waste can midsize, comma. Numeral 2, comma. 0 plus sign. Numeral 4. Scratch that. Comma. Numeral 4. Comma. $78. Stop recording. Okay, there you saw a number of things. Obviously, some things that were covered in the previous tutorial, like new line. When you get to the end of the line, just say new line and it'll begin a new line. You heard me use the phrase scratch that. If you are in the midst of dictating and you get a result that you don't want, a version of delete is to just dynamically say scratch that, and it will scratch the most recent or delete the most recent bit or byte of data that you spoke, and you can just continue. It's like undo, essentially. You can go back, you can say scratch that, scratch that, scratch that, and it'll step back to the previous steps, so you can erase dynamically while you're doing things. I didn't exactly want waist canned mid-size, so I am going to see if I can use dictation to change that to exactly what I want, which is waist can mid-size. So let's just give that a try through dictation and see what happens. Go to waist, scratch that. Select waist canned mid-size, scratch that. Scratch that. Undo. 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 Select waist through mid-size. Waist can mid-size. Mid-size. Stop recording. Okay, you got a lot there. You can see how things can get rather complicated if you get in a little too deep. So undo also is another way of rolling back. So scratch that is basically like an eraser to a piece of paper to wipe out words incrementally, and then the classic undo command. But you also saw where I was able to use my voice to command the application and the cursor to go to a very specific spot in the document. And just to show that again, I'm going to tap on the recording button and direct it to go to a very specific area. Select wall pocket. Wall pocket divider. Stop recording. So there you can see where you can actually select a word or a phrase, and then whatever you say next, it's going to interpret that as what you want to change that line that you selected, or that phrase, what you selected, to whatever it is you speak next. So it's, again, very, very powerful, and just begins to illustrate how you can bounce around this document. But let me move forward by moving this document out of this app. And again, that is one of the things, excuse me, about this app that is different from the iOS dictation, is that the iOS dictation rests at any point in any app where you launch the built-in keyboard, typewriter keyboard. There's the dictation command. In the case of Dragon, you are always going to be dictating in this app first and then sending what you create out via this share option as one possible way. So here we go. I'm going to activate the share sheet, as they call it in iOS, and there is this option to share the document. Because I saved it as a text document, one of the apps that's going to show up as an option is Numbers. And as I have mentioned in previous tutorials, I don't use the Microsoft Excel iOS app, but I do use Apple's Numbers. So when I tap that, it's going to trigger Dragon to send this data that we just entered out to the Numbers application, and for that application to import this comma separated value file into a spreadsheet. And you can see that our results are completed. I'm going to tap it, and there is our spreadsheet. And you can see it is filled in a neat and tidy way all of the information. It captured all the headers properly, and then captured all of the data across the cells that we had set up, again using voice/dictation. So that pretty much shows you as close to a match in terms of sequence of things compared to the tutorial that I did previously using the iOS dictation. Hopefully this goes a little bit further, mainly because there are just more features inside the Dragon Anywhere app to be able to navigate around your file and to do lots of other things like triggering the app to open up Dropbox, send this here, send it via an email. In fact, let me just do one more quick thing. Send as an attachment. Email as an attachment. So there you can see by using the phrase email as an attachment, I can dynamically direct the application to launch the built-in mail application on my iOS device and include the file that we just dictated as an email attachment as a text file. And then I could address this and send it off, and it's done. And again, just another way of illustrating some of the power under the hood that exists inside the Dragon Anywhere that is really not there as far as the iOS device goes. So I hope this helps. If so, send me some feedback. And if you want to see some more demonstrations on some of the things that it can and maybe can't do, I'm happy to do that. But until then, hopefully this gives you a nice little primer into how you can leverage Dragon Anywhere to create text documents that can be, in this example, shipped out to a spreadsheet. But there's lots of other options, as you just saw, in terms of emailing and synchronizing and sending files into different applications. So I hope this is helpful and look forward to hearing from you.